we've done it ourselves. So we eat our own cooking, right? So within BSP, we know how to integrate businesses, and we have a 6-month, 12-month, 18-month integration plan, right? That is not a go in and work out who we can fire plan, right? That is a how do we get everyone on board with our way of thinking so that they can optimize themselves, use our tools, all that sort of stuff, right? And that is a training exercise. But it's also finding out where we can extract further value from people that have maybe misplaced in one role who could do a much better job, but unfortunately they're being drawn into a role that is sort of
boring, and they hate it.
They don't want it. Yeah.
So it's not about, if we take the growth angle or the prosperity angle of it, you look at business succession partners, we want to go and buy businesses and grow them. And we want to continue to grow them and build it out. We don't just want to take them and restructure and then flip them off or whatever. We want to hold long. And therefore, a business is all about its people. And if you rip all of the people out, yes, you can codify the standard operating procedures and pull out a whole bunch of tribal knowledge. But that's only good for maybe like 80% of the business functions. The other 20%, the nuances that really give you that competitive advantage or that strategic edge or insight, are within the people. And they have so much context of their lived experiences within the industry, even their upbringing, that shape the way that a business works, because it's still culture. And I think that's just such an interesting thing with AI, is actually, I think we're going to go full circle where everyone goes, oh, we digitize like every aspect of the business and all that. And then you realize that these businesses become soulless and lose their competitive edge because you've just tried to optimize it too much.
I was talking to my wife, I was like, I see the whole education system being completely disrupted by AI because you can standardize delivery, not just the content, but the delivery in a standardized framework, but customized to the proclivities of each student.
Yeah. But also the critical thinking element to it becomes so much more important because I think when you was talking about the LLM being trained on like protein sequences and sequencing and things like that, I was like, actually, the point is that they're designed to be sort of like scientific grade, questioning everything type. Whereas the general LLMs, they don't question, they reproduce numbers on the whole, but unless you actually train them to question a number. I got a PPM, an offer dot the other day, and it said a misspelling in the medical world in the US is a $210 trillion problem per year. And I was like, not sure it is.
Not sure it is. I'm going to push back on that one.
AI generated?
Yeah.
I don't know whether it was human or AI generated, but I loved it. The guy sent it to me, and I just did a quick scan of it, and I just saw that number, and I just went,
right.
Nobody has thought about that before they sent it out. And I sat there and went, if it was AI generated, you need the AI to reference it or double check key numbers like that and things like that. But people don't anymore. Or they're fallible, as we all are.
I don't think that's ever going to go away. Like in terms of the practice, like I think it's become etiquette in a way where you have to check statistical data, because even though the models they've gone really good, and even, the better ones like the Grok and the Perplexity, they'll provide references on the data, but you still have to check, because some of those data are comparing like 1999 versus like 2025.
Or it's referencing a secondary source.
Yeah,
well.
or it's exactly.
Or referencing Wikipedia. That's a good one that I saw the other day. It did pull the references out, but I was like, references Wikipedia, and you have to know that you can write anything on Wikipedia, and it very rarely gets fact-checked.
I did deep research the other day, doing some deep research on the AI enablement market and some of the challenges around, and it was off the back of that MIT report, which we'll get back to in a second, but it came and I asked it to provide me with primary sources, then got it to go and do the deep research, and the deep research was actually pretty solid. Like, it was probably 80% there, but one of the key problems was that it kept jumping to secondary sources. And unfortunately, those secondary sources were all AI consultancies, which, so you can imagine the bias that would come through with those. And then you go in, and I actually then tried to find the primary source of that, and half of them didn't have it. So it's like, okay, well, that information is just probably completely incorrect, or you can't verify it. And I mean, going back to your point though, statistics and research reports are also questionable, because you can set up a method or the way that you report something to lean towards whatever way you want, or you do the calculation in a slightly different way. And let's be honest, most people don't actually go and check the research
I certainly
report.
don't. Yeah. I mean, there's a trusted source issue, right? If it's a newsletter coming from Simon, I'm going to trust that he's, he concocted the statistics himself. He counted every car that came out of the factory, right? He went to the shelves.
I did a post the other day and I literally made up a statistic because I couldn't remember what the actual statistic was. And I just put it on LinkedIn. And then I think I just said at the end, 60% of statistics are made up, and then the rest are made up by AI. But just to be a bit cheeky with it, but it's all about the methodology. I think that's a good segue back to your point about the MIT study, because it noted a 95% failure rate in the subjects that it was achieved. I think it was about 300 businesses or organizations. But actually, their whole method was really flawed. So I think it's a great report, and I think it provides some really interesting insights.
Okay.
But the methodology was a bit flawed because it basically said that they had to, I can't remember exactly, but it said they had to deliver tangible ROI within 6 months. And it was also surveying key individuals and champions on their perspective, whether it was achieved or not.
Right, which is objective.
And it was 300 organizations and I don't know how many individuals, but it was actually like a really small subset.
Yeah.
And I think it was a lot of bigger organizations as well.
Okay, so what do you think they got wrong about, is it the metrics on how they measured happiness or ROI from an internal metric because of how subjective these surveys were? I would imagine that if I asked my management team, my head of compliance, do you find this AI useful? They're going to do everything in their power to tell us how useless it is. Either A, to protect their job, right? Or B, because their expectations were simply too high.
Yeah. So you asked whether we'd experienced the same failure rate or success rate.
Yeah.
And I think we haven't. We're way more successful, but it's because we set our bar really low.
Right.
So we kind of go like, what is the ROI for us? I don't think there is some sort of element of monetary saving, whether it's cost saving or cost avoidance or whatever it might be. But the qualitative perspective on it is massive.
Yeah.
So an example is we go and generate our information memorandum draft based on all of our strategy and all of our information. And to generate that would take probably weeks, if not months. Otherwise, we'd probably pay, $30,000 to go and get somebody to do it for us or help us write it out. We can now do that with AI, and it spits out and explains our thesis and everything much better than we do usually.
Yeah.
You still have to go through it with a fine-tooth comb and make sure that it's really, really accurate and it's hitting on the right nuances, because it'll get certain things wrong, or it will hype or overpromise. And sometimes it makes up case studies because it doesn't have it wasn't prompted properly, or you're just pushing it to its limits. But we would mark that as a success because it probably saved us maybe a week worth of work. It probably improved the quality of the output by, let's say, conservatively 40%, but probably much more, because the way that it writes the content, once you get it to do the tone of voice and the writing style and configure it to how you want it to before you get it to generate, was really good. So for us, that's a success, and it has a significant amount of ROI.
Do you think it's because some of the teams who are seeing the benefits of AI are simply stealing that time for their own personal efficiency and personal enjoyment, and saying like, instead of what took me 6 hours to write this report, I got AI to do it. And I'm actually only took in an hour with AI, and I'm taking the other 5 hours to, watch a movie.
Yeah, I think that's the crucial point. I think AI can save people time, but it is what they choose to do with that saved time. Now, everyone's very woken into health and wellness these days. I don't think that's a bad thing. And if you are going to use that time because you do a very stressful job to go to the gym or get some headspace, great. That is value add. It's not a tangible ROI value add, but it's probably a bigger value add in terms of, keeping that employee.
Probably not massive value add if you've spent like $1 million on the AI enablement program. And that's probably another bias that this report has. I'm not actually completely bagging the report, because I think actually the insights are actually spot on.
Yeah.
So there are a whole bunch of insights around that it didn't achieve the ROI within 6 months. Well, that's probably realistic because they're doing a very big program and they're looking to implement something at scale. And this is, as we talked about, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So you probably wouldn't see the ROI in these bigger organizations if it's a more complex workflow for like 12 to 18 months realistically. And you also have to remember that you're learning. So when we go and do an AI implementation, we actually say build the fundamentals first. So start off with exec level AI fundamentals, introduction to AI, demonstrating use cases and a little bit of strategy. Then go in at the operations level and build those foundations as well. What are the limitations? What are the capabilities? What are the use cases of AI? What are the risks and some basic policies around proper use of it? And then you go in and find a low-hanging fruit that you can then go and do a pilot on to build that infrastructure foundation, get some runs on the board and demonstrate value, but it's not going to be knock it out of the park kind of value.
No.
It's not going to be this massive ROI.
It's not going to be a full task. It'll be like a subtask that saves, instead of 1,700 hours, it's only going to save maybe 15 minutes at a time. But hopefully, cumulatively, with a lot of small wins, you'll be able to hit that 1,700 mark.
Well, and sort of two live examples, right? A top sales professional getting 2 or 3 hours extra on top of their day that they're not fully in the CRM. What's that worth? If they're spending that with clients or on the phone to clients, customers, whatever it might be, that is invaluable. And it doesn't necessarily translate in the first 6 months, but to your business and to your reputation and so on, that's huge.
But also from like an experience perspective, like it was cool to like go through and read that. It was fascinating.
What do you think are the motivations of Sam Altman right now? And I ask this is a thinly veiled question, of course, because you now have a situation, you're going to hear from the podcast as well, where a lot of people have left him. And those who have left have started off AI security companies. And it's well known that he's put security as a secondary priority. He's already worth billions.
But it's a bit of a power trip now, isn't it?
Is it? Is that what it is?
Execution. It's kind of like you go, okay, what motivates you and what keeps you going? And it's just like, what's your number? What would make you satisfied? And I think the answer often for people who are highly motivated is more. And I feel for him, it's like a race and probably also a way to prove yourself. You have to stay at the top because everyone is fighting him. So it's like, I have to just keep going at all costs, potentially.
But you saw that the technology guys like Tim Cook, sucking up to Donald Trump, which is the most embarrassing thing I've seen for a very long time.
Yeah.
But he knows he's a sycophant, so he's playing up to it. The reality is that they're all in that position where kind of their position is strong, but only if they're allowed to be in that position. And Sam Altman, with the Saudis and all the rest, when he was taken there, do all those business deals for the US, is it and building that massive AI hub in Saudi Arabia? I mean, like 1 to 5 or whatever. I'm just sitting there going, this is not the sort of way that you sold the vision to the tech guys at the start. Selling yourself out to the US government to sign multi-billion-dollar AI deals. Is a totally different business.
But isn't it that startup mentality? It's like the growth at all costs and just that grow. And you're just kind of in that view of grow, survive, keep going. Because, they are still fighting to survive. If they took the foot off the gas, they're an incinerator. They need to continue the momentum. Otherwise, they run out of capital or they get overtaken by the others. So is it a survival instinct? I don't know the answer, but potentially.
On one hand, the organization is burning cash at an incredible rate. It's not economically feasible yet, is it? Like, there's no proof that it is.
I don't know because it's so highly commoditized.